In the vast expanse of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, where ancient gods command the devotion of trillions and the warp churns with divine power, perhaps no deities are quite as straightforward yet paradoxically complex as Gork and Mork, the twin gods of the Orks. Unlike the cerebral worship of the Aldari pantheon or the dark devotions of chaos, the Orks' relationship with their gods embodies the very essence of their species: direct, violent, and surprisingly effective. These divine twins represent the perfect distillation of Orkish philosophy. Gork is brutally cunning, while Mork is cunningly brutal. To non-Orks, this distinction might seem meaninglessly circular, but to the green-skinned hordes, it encompasses the entire spectrum of viable tactical approaches to warfare and life itself. This seemingly simple duality masks a sophisticated cultural framework that underpins every aspect of Ork society. The power of Gork and Mork manifests in ways that reflect the unique psychic gestalt of the Ork race. While other species gods might demand elaborate rituals, complex prayers, or soul-crushing sacrifices, the Ork gods are satisfied with the simple act of warfare itself. Every punch thrown, every shot fired, and every war cry bellowed serves as both prayer and tribute to these martial deities. This direct connection between action and worship perfectly suits the Ork psyche, where belief and reality intertwine in ways that defy conventional understanding. What makes Gork and Mork particularly fascinating is their tangible influence on Ork society. Unlike many divine entities in the 41st millennium, whose influence often relies on interpretation by priests and prophets, the impact of the Ork gods can be seen in the very technology and social structures of their followers. From the crude but effective Orkish technology to the might-makes-right hierarchy of their warband structure, every aspect of Ork existence reflects the dual nature of their deities. The significance of Gork and Mork extends beyond mere religious symbolism. They represent the evolutionary success of the Ork race, a species engineered for war by the ancient Old Ones. This divine duality serves as both a philosophical framework and a practical guide for Ork behavior, ensuring their continued survival and proliferation across the galaxy. In a universe where faith often breeds complexity and darkness, the straightforward brutality of Ork worship stands as a testament to the enduring power of simple beliefs. As we delve deeper into the nature of these unique deities, we'll uncover how this seemingly simple divine pairing has shaped one of the most successful and resilient species in the galaxy. The story of Gork and Mork is not just a tale of gods and worship. It's the key to understanding how a race of bellicose warriors has managed to thrive in a universe where sophistication and technological advancement often determine survival. At the heart of Orkish religious structure stands an intricate hierarchy of figures, each channeling and interpreting the will of Gork and Mork in their own unique way. The Weird Boys, blessed or cursed with psychic sensitivity, serve as living conduits to the divine power of these deities. Unlike the structured priesthoods of other races, these reluctant prophets channel raw Waaagh, energy, the psychic manifestation of Orkish belief that many scholars theorize represents the direct influence of their gods. War bosses, while not explicitly religious figures, embody the divine principles of Gork and Mork through their leadership. The most successful among them master the delicate balance between brutal cunning and cunning brutality, leading their Waaghs. With a natural understanding of when to apply each aspect, these leaders often claim divine inspiration for their greatest victories, and given the mysterious ways in which Orkish belief shapes reality, such claims might hold more truth than even they realize. The enigmatic mech boys occupy a unique position in this theological ecosystem. Their innate ability to create functioning technology from scrap metal and random parts represents a different kind of divine blessing. Many Imperial scholars speculate that their technical knowledge was encoded into Ork genetics by the Old Ones, making them living repositories of ancient wisdom. Their works often incorporate crude imagery of Gork and Mork, suggesting a deep instinctual connection between their technical expertise and religious belief. Among the lesser-known but crucial figures are the Mad Boys, whose erratic behavior is often attributed to being touched by Gork and Mork. These unpredictable warriors sometimes display surprising insights into the nature of their gods, speaking prophecies between bouts of violence that other orcs interpret as divine messages. Their very existence demonstrates the complex relationship between madness and divine inspiration in orc culture. The Pain Boys, or Docs, represent another fascinating intersection of practical function and divine purpose. Their surgical experiments and modifications, while primarily focused on physical enhancement, often incorporate religious elements. Many docs claim that their improvements to other orcs bring their patients closer to the ideal forms of Gork and Mork, suggesting a theological dimension to their medical practices that most observers overlook. Special mention must be made of the Goff's clan, whose dedication to close combat, they claim, comes from a particularly strong connection to Gork. Their rivals, the Blood Axes, counter with claims of a special relationship with Mork, citing their use of cunning tactics. This competitive aspect of divine favor drives much of the internal dynamics between orc clans, each asserting their own interpretation of the god's will. The Storm Boys represent an amusing paradox in this religious hierarchy. These disciplined troops, with their attempts at military order, might seem to contradict orcish nature, yet they justify their behavior as a different interpretation of divine will. They argue that their regimented approach to warfare represents a more sophisticated understanding of Gork and Mork's teachings, even if other orcs view them with suspicion. Within the complex web of orc society, even the humble Gretchen play a role in the religious ecosystem. These diminutive creatures often serve as caretakers for crude shrines to Gork and Mork, maintaining fetishes and totems that focus orcish belief. Their position, while lowly, helps maintain the physical infrastructure of orc worship, though they themselves likely understand little of its true significance. Runthurds, who manage the Gretchen populations, sometimes take on quasi-religious roles in smaller orc communities. They maintain order among the lower castes through a combination of physical intimidation and religious authority, often claiming to interpret the will of Gork and Mork regarding proper Gretchen behavior. This demonstrates how orcish religion permeates every level of their society, from the mightiest war boss to the lowest slave. The recent emergence of certain specialized orc cults adds another layer to this religious hierarchy. These groups, often forming around particularly charismatic leaders or during extended campaigns, develop their own unique interpretations of Gork and Mork's teachings. While most maintain the fundamental duality of brutal cunning and cunning brutality, they add their own flourishes and rituals, contributing to the ever-evolving nature of orc religious expression. The foundations of Gork and Mork's significance trace back to the war in heaven, when the Old Ones crafted the Krork, the ancient ancestors of modern orcs, as living weapons against the Necron Tire. These sophisticated bioengineers encoded more than just physical traits into their creations. They implemented a complex theological framework that would ensure their weapons remained focused and effective even without direct oversight. Archaeological evidence from this period, though fragmentary, suggests that the initial conception of Gork and Mork emerged from sophisticated psycho-spiritual engineering. The Old Ones recognized that their creations needed a belief system that would channel their aggressive tendencies while maintaining their effectiveness as warriors. The duality of these gods wasn't merely religious symbolism. It represented a carefully crafted psychological framework designed to create perfect soldiers. The transformation of the Krork into modern orcs brought significant changes to this inherited religious structure. As their society devolved from its original sophisticated form, the worship of Gork and Mork simplified, but paradoxically grew more powerful. The innate psychic field generated by orcs, known as the Waaagh, became inextricably linked with their faith, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of belief and manifestation. Ancient texts recovered from Aldari archives speak of early encounters with orc worship practices. These records describe witnessing manifestations of enormous green-skinned figures during major orc battles, suggesting that even in their earliest form, orc belief held the power to affect reality. The Aldari, masters of psychic engineering themselves, recognized these phenomena as something beyond simple mass hallucination. The development of distinct orc clans further shaped the evolution of their faith. Each clan's interpretation of the gods' aspects contributed new dimensions to orcish theology. The evil suns saw speed as divine blessing, while the bad moons interpreted wealth as a sign of divine favor. These diverse interpretations, rather than fragmenting orc belief, strengthened it through variation. Scattered reports from rogue traders and explorator fleets indicate that isolated orc populations, separated from larger society for millennia, independently developed nearly identical conceptualizations of Gork and Mork. This remarkable consistency suggests that the belief in these deities isn't merely cultural, but is somehow encoded into the very essence of what makes an orc. The role of technology in early orc society became inexorably linked with their religious beliefs. The first mech boys discovered that incorporating religious iconography into their creations improved their functionality, a phenomenon that continues to puzzle Imperial scholars. This merger of technology and faith established a precedent that would define orc engineering practices for millennia to come. Pre-Imperial human encounters with orc civilization provided crucial insights into the development of their religious practices. Records from Dark Age of Technology expeditions describe witnessing massive orc gatherings where the collective belief of thousands created tangible effects on the physical world. These observations helped establish the first scientific frameworks for understanding the unique nature of orcish faith. The Great Crusade era brought the first systematic imperial study of orc religion. Remembrancers accompanying Space Marine expeditions documented numerous instances where orc belief demonstrably altered reality. These studies laid the groundwork for current imperial understanding of the relationship between orc psychology, their gods, and their remarkable ability to shape the world around them through sheer conviction. This deep-rooted foundation in both biology and belief creates a unique situation where orc religion cannot be separated from their nature as a species. Unlike other races who developed their faiths through cultural evolution, the worship of Gork and Mork appears to be an integral part of what makes orcs function as a species, creating a theological framework that is simultaneously primitive and extraordinarily sophisticated. The earliest recorded manifestation of Gork and Mork's influence occurred during the beast's Waaagh in M32. Imperial scholars noted unprecedented phenomena surrounding orc religious gatherings, with massive green auroras visible from orbit above worlds where significant orc populations gathered. These manifestations grew stronger as the beast's influence spread, suggesting a direct correlation between orcish military success and divine presence. The Ulanor Crusade marked another crucial period in the evolution of orc religious practice. As the Emperor himself led the campaign against the largest orc empire yet encountered, witnesses reported seeing colossal spectral figures looming over major battlefields. Space Marine battle records describe these manifestations growing more substantial as orc resistance intensified, culminating in what appeared to be physical manifestations during the final battles. During the War of the Beast, the phenomenon known as Green Rain first appeared on worlds facing imminent orc invasion. This mysterious occurrence, where precipitation took on a distinct green tinge, was accompanied by increased orc psychic activity and spontaneous manifestations of crude technology. Mechanicum analysts eventually linked these events to heightened collective belief among approaching orc forces. The Third Armageddon War brought unprecedented displays of divine intervention in orc warfare. As Gazshkul Thraka's forces engaged Imperial defenders, numerous instances of inexplicable phenomena were recorded. Artillery shells curved impossible trajectories to strike targets, vehicles operated without fuel, and wounds healed spontaneously among Ork forces, all attributed to direct divine intervention by the Ork leadership. The Gothic War revealed new aspects of Ork religious expression when faced with chaos influences. Ork forces demonstrated remarkable resistance to chaos corruption, their unwavering faith in Gork and Mork seemingly providing protection against the temptations of the dark gods. This observation led to extensive inquisitorial studies on the nature of Orkish belief as a potential bulwark against chaos. The Octarius War brought forth unprecedented manifestations of divine power as Orks faced the Tyrannid menace. The desperate struggle against the Great Devourer pushed Ork belief to new heights, resulting in documented cases of massive green energy formations taking humanoid shapes during crucial battles. These manifestations proved instrumental in holding back the Tyrannid advance. The period of malediction saw the emergence of the first recorded prophet of Gork and Mork, a particularly powerful weird boy who claimed direct communication with both deities. His prophecies led multiple Waaaghs to significant victories before his spectacular death, which witnesses describe as ascending to fight alongside the gods themselves. The Siege of Tafarax Prime demonstrated the evolutionary aspect of Ork religious practice when an isolated Ork society, cut off for millennia, was discovered practicing rituals identical to their mainstream counterparts. This discovery provided crucial evidence for the genetic component of Ork religious behavior and its resistance to cultural drift. Recent developments in the era Indomitus have shown increasing sophistication in Ork religious expression. The appearance of more organized worship structures, particularly among Gazkul's followers, suggests an evolution in Ork spiritual practices. These developments coincide with growing reports of divine manifestations during major conflicts, indicating a possible strengthening of the connection between Orks and their deities. The ongoing conflicts in the Octarius sector continue to provide new insights into the relationship between Ork belief and reality. As massive armies clash with Tyrannid forces, Imperial observers report increasingly frequent and powerful manifestations of what appear to be divine intervention. These events have led some scholars to suggest that the very nature of Orkish faith may be evolving in response to unprecedented challenges. The defining moment in the modern understanding of Gork and Mork's influence came during the cataclysmic Battle of Ulanor Redux, when Gazkul Thraka's unprecedented unification of disparate Ork beliefs led to the first fully documented manifestation of divine power. This pivotal event fundamentally altered both Ork society and Imperial understanding of Orkish faith. The convergence began when Gazkul's massive Waaagh encountered a splinter fleet of High Fleet Leviathan. As millions of Orks gathered to face the Tyrannid threat, something extraordinary occurred. The collective belief of the assembled Orks reached a critical threshold, triggering a cascade of inexplicable phenomena that defied conventional physics and Imperial doctrine alike. Mechanicus observers recorded massive energy spikes that correlated with surges in Orkish psychic activity. The Waaagh. Energy generated by the assembled greenskins coalesced into visible manifestations, forming towering figures that loomed over the battlefield. These entities, which Orks immediately recognized as Gork and Mork, demonstrated capabilities that transcended normal materialistic limitations. The manifestation's impact on the battlefield was immediate and devastating. Tyrannid bioforms found themselves unable to adapt to weapons that shouldn't function, vehicles that violated physics, and wounds that healed through sheer belief. The phenomenon spread beyond individual miracles, creating a zone where reality itself began conforming to Orkish expectations. This event marked the first time Imperial scholars could systematically document the transition from collective belief to physical manifestation. The presence of Mechanicus monitoring equipment provided unprecedented data about the nature of Ork faith and its ability to influence reality. The recordings revolutionized Imperial understanding of both Ork psychology and the relationship between belief and the material universe. The aftermath of this manifestation had far-reaching consequences. The successful defense against the Tyranid threat validated Gazkul's religious authority, leading to a transformation in how orcs across the galaxy approached their faith. New forms of worship emerged, combining traditional orcish directness with more organized expressions of devotion. More significantly, the event demonstrated the latent potential within orc society. The proven ability of sufficient numbers of orcs to manifest aspects of their deities suggested possibilities that alarmed Imperial authorities. If such manifestations could be replicated or controlled, the implications for galactic warfare would be staggering. The Inquisition's response to these revelations sparked intense debate within Imperial hierarchy. Some advocated for the immediate extermination of any large orc gatherings to prevent similar manifestations, while others argued for continued study to better understand and potentially counter this phenomenon. This division would shape Imperial policy toward orc populations for centuries to come. The event also triggered evolutionary changes within orc society itself. Weird boys reported increased visions and communication with their deities, while mech boys found their intuitive understanding of technology enhanced. These developments suggested that the manifestation had somehow strengthened the connection between orcs and their gods. This turning point redefined the galaxy's understanding of orc potential and the true nature of their faith. What had once been dismissed as primitive superstition was revealed as a sophisticated system capable of reshaping reality itself, forcing every major power to reassess their approach to dealing with orc populations and the threat they represent. The influence of Gork and Mork's worship reshaped galactic warfare in profound and unexpected ways. Following major manifestations of divine power, Imperial military doctrine underwent significant revision, incorporating new protocols for engaging large orc concentrations. These changes reflected growing understanding that orc belief systems represented not just cultural practices, but tactical considerations of the highest order. The Adeptus Mechanicus established dedicated research facilities focusing on the phenomenon dubbed belief physics interface. These studies revealed disturbing implications about reality's malleability in the presence of sufficient orcish conviction. Several Forge worlds began developing specialized equipment designed to detect and measure localized reality distortions associated with large orc gatherings. Eldari Farseers reported increasing difficulties scrying futures involving significant orc populations. The psychic resonance of orc belief systems created blind spots in their prophetic abilities, suggesting that Gork and Mork's influence extended beyond the material realm into the very fabric of fate itself. This development forced the Eldari to reassess their traditional strategies for managing orc threats. The Tau Empire's attempts to incorporate orcs into their greater good met with unprecedented failures. Their usual diplomatic approaches proved ineffective against a species whose gods actively rewarded violence and cunning. This forced the Tau to develop new containment strategies, acknowledging that some species remained fundamentally incompatible with their vision of galactic unity. Within Orc society, successful manifestations of divine power led to the emergence of new social structures. War bosses who could consistently channel or invoke divine favor gained unprecedented influence, leading to larger and more stable orc empires. These developments challenged the traditional understanding of orc society as inherently fractious and unstable. The phenomenon of faith tech, orc technology enhanced by religious belief, proliferated across orc-held territories. Mech boys incorporated increasingly elaborate religious symbolism into their creations, resulting in machines that functioned more effectively when operated by believers. This marriage of technology and faith produced weapons and vehicles that defied conventional physics and logic. Inquisitorial studies documented increasing sophistication in orc religious practices. While maintaining their characteristic directness, orc worship evolved to include more organized elements. Shrines became more elaborate, rituals more structured, though never losing their essential orcish nature. This evolution suggested a growing awareness among orcs of their own divine potential. The establishment of permanent orc empires led to the development of more sophisticated religious infrastructure. Massive temples combining fighting arenas with worship spaces appeared on orc-held worlds. These structures served as focal points for Waaagh, energy, creating stable zones where orcish reality-bending abilities maintained constant influence. Chaos forces reported increasing difficulty corrupting orc populations. The straightforward nature of Gork and Mork's worship, combined with the orcs' natural resistance to chaos influence, created populations effectively immune to chaos corruption. This phenomenon led some radical inquisitors to propose using orc populations as buffer zones against chaos expansion. The growing power of orc belief systems forced major revisions in Imperial threat assessment protocols. The possibility that any orc gathering could trigger reality-altering divine manifestations elevated even small orc populations to potential Omega-level threats. This reassessment diverted significant Imperial resources toward monitoring and containing orc activities across the galaxy. The technological manifestations of Gork and Mork's influence extend far beyond simple religious iconography. The phenomenon known as faith mechanics permeates every aspect of orc engineering, creating a unique fusion of belief and technology that defies conventional understanding. Mech boys instinctively incorporate divine elements into their creations, producing machines that function through a combination of rudimentary physics and pure conviction. The legendary red wounds phenomenon perfectly exemplifies this merger of faith and function. Vehicles painted red demonstrably move faster, not through any mechanical enhancement, but through the collective belief of orc society in this divine principle. Mechanicus studies have confirmed measurable increases in velocity, despite no detectable changes in engine output or aerodynamics. Combat doctrine among orc forces reflects the dual nature of their gods in surprisingly sophisticated ways. Units dedicated to Gork favor overwhelming assault tactics, while those aligned with Mork demonstrate unexpected subtlety in their approaches. This tactical division creates a natural combined arms approach that emerges organically from their religious beliefs rather than formal military training. The development of Waaagh resonators represents perhaps the most advanced application of orcish faith technology. These devices, crude by Imperial standards, somehow amplify the natural psychic field generated by orc populations. The resulting enhancement of reality-bending effects suggests that orc technology can actively channel divine power, though the exact mechanisms remain mysterious. Ritual combat practices among orc societies demonstrate remarkable consistency across isolated populations, suggesting an inherited understanding of divine preferences. These fights follow unwritten but universally understood rules that balance direct violence with cunning maneuvers, reflecting the complementary aspects of their twin deities. Winners are determined not just by physical prowess, but by their ability to embody both divine principles. The phenomenon of mob enhancement shows how orcish faith affects group dynamics in combat. As more orcs gather in one location, individual warriors demonstrate increased strength, resilience, and combat effectiveness. This effect, documented by Imperial observers, appears to scale logarithmically with group size, suggesting some form of psychic amplification through shared belief. Orcish siege warfare incorporates religious elements that transform conventional military operations into acts of worship. Massive weapons platforms double as mobile shrines, their effectiveness seemingly enhanced by the devotional activities of their crews. The practice of blessed scrap, incorporating pieces of successful war machines into new constructions, creates a form of technological apostolic succession. The development of faith shielding represents a particularly intriguing advancement. Large orc formations generate protective fields that seem to deflect or absorb enemy fire through no discernible mechanical means. These effects become more pronounced during periods of intense combat, suggesting a direct correlation between religious fervor and defensive capabilities. The practice of divine scavenging shows how orcish faith influences their resource gathering. Mech boys claim guidance from Gork and Mork when selecting materials for their creations, often choosing seemingly unsuitable components that somehow function perfectly within their constructions. This suggests either remarkable intuition or genuine divine intervention in their engineering processes. The emergence of specialized god engines marks a new development in orcish military technology. These massive war machines, built around cores of blessed scrap and covered in religious iconography, demonstrate capabilities that surpass even the usual physics-defying properties of orc technology. Their performance improves markedly during periods of intense religious activity, suggesting a direct link between faith and function. Among the greatest interpreters of Gork and Mork's will stands Da Prophet Waaagh, whose visions revolutionized orc understanding of divine intervention. During the siege of Octarius, Waaagh experienced what he described as direct communication with both deities simultaneously. His subsequent prophecies led to unprecedented victories against Tyranid forces, demonstrating tactical sophistication that seemed impossible for typical orc commanders. The legendary Weird Boy Zogwart achieved fame through his unique ability to manifest aspects of both gods simultaneously. His powers transcended normal psychic abilities, allowing him to transform enemies into squigs, a feat that perfectly embodied both the brutality of Gork and the cunning of Mork. Imperial scholars still debate whether these transformations represented genuine transmutation or reality-altering belief made manifest. Mech boss Waaagh earned reverence among orc communities for creating the first documented god engine. This massive war machine, built entirely from pieces of successful orc vehicles, demonstrated unusual reliability and effectiveness. Witnesses reported seeing ghostly green figures manning its weapons during battle, suggesting direct divine intervention in its operation. The mysterious figure known as the Green Prophet emerged during the Third War for Armageddon, leading massive religious gatherings that produced tangible effects on reality. His ability to channel and direct Waaagh energy through ritual combat ceremonies created temporary zones where orc belief directly shaped physical laws, giving orc forces significant tactical advantages. War boss Grimtooth, Da Blessed, gained notoriety for his claim of wrestling with Gork and Mork in a dream vision. After this experience, his strategic decisions demonstrated an uncanny blend of brutality and cunning that led to numerous victories against superior forces. His success inspired a new tradition of ritual dream questing among ambitious orc leaders. The infamous pain boss Skargnik developed unique surgical techniques he claimed were divinely inspired. His modifications to orc physiology, while crude, produced warriors with enhanced abilities that defied conventional biology. The success of his blessed procedure suggested genuine divine influence in his work, despite its barbaric nature. Within the Blood Axes clan, the philosopher-warrior Snikerot developed a complex theological framework combining traditional orc beliefs with sophisticated tactical doctrine. His teachings about the dual nature of divine favor revolutionized how his clan approached warfare, leading to the development of new combat techniques that proved remarkably effective. The rise of Waaagh Da Great Green Prophet marked a significant evolution in orcish religious leadership. His ability to interpret divine will through ritual dance and combat created new forms of worship that spread rapidly through orc society. The effectiveness of his followers in battle suggested his interpretations carried genuine divine authority. Among the evil sons, speed boss Waaagh achieved legendary status through his seemingly supernatural connection to vehicles. His motorcycles performed impossible feats during combat, which he attributed to direct blessing from Gork and Mork. The consistent success of his wild tactics suggested more than mere luck or skill at work. The emergence of the Death Skull leader known as Lucky Blue revolutionized understanding of divine favor in orc society. His inexplicable ability to find exactly the right scrap for any situation, combined with his survival of countless seemingly fatal situations, created new theories about how Gork and Mork's blessing might manifest in subtle ways. The deepest mystery surrounding Gork and Mork lies in their true nature within the warp. Unlike other deities whose presence manifests clearly in the immaterium, these orcish gods exist in a state that defies conventional understanding. Eldar seers report bizarre anomalies when attempting to perceive these entities, describing them as simultaneously present and absent, powerful and non-existent. Imperial scholars remain baffled by the phenomenon of synchronized manifestation, where orc populations separated by vast distances demonstrate identical religious experiences simultaneously. During the Octarius conflict, multiple orc enclaves across different sectors reported identical visions of divine intervention, despite having no means of communication with each other. This suggests a connection that transcends normal space-time limitations. The relationship between orc beliefs and their technology presents another enduring enigma. While the basic principle of collective psychic influence is understood, the specific mechanism by which religious conviction enhances mechanical functionality remains unclear. Mechanica studies have failed to identify any physical component that could explain how faith literally improves machine performance. Perhaps most perplexing is the question of consciousness transfer in orc faith. When powerful orcs fall in battle, their followers often report seeing green ghostly figures joining the ranks of Gork and Mork's celestial armies. These appearances correlate with measurable energy signatures that suggest some form of consciousness preservation, though the nature of this phenomenon remains unexplained. The mystery of the green time phenomenon continues to puzzle Imperial researchers. During periods of intense orcish religious activity, observers report localized temporal anomalies, where time seems to flow differently for orcs than for other races. These effects appear strongest during major battles, suggesting a connection between combat, faith, and the fundamental fabric of reality. Investigations into the origin of orcish religious knowledge have raised troubling questions about genetic memory and divine inspiration. The consistency of religious practices across isolated populations suggests inherited knowledge, yet the complexity and sophistication of some rituals seem to exceed what could be encoded purely genetically. The phenomenon known as divine resonance presents another unexplained aspect of orcish faith. When large groups of orcs engage in religious celebrations, sensitive instruments detect energy patterns that match theoretical models of higher dimensional space-time interactions. These readings suggest their worship somehow influences fundamental cosmic forces in ways that shouldn't be possible. Archaeological expeditions to ancient orc sites have uncovered evidence of religious practices that predate current scientific understanding of orc evolution. These discoveries suggest either a much longer history of organized orcish religion than previously believed, or some form of retroactive temporal influence from their current beliefs affecting historical records. The question of divine consciousness remains particularly vexing. While other races' gods demonstrate clear personalities and motivations, Gork and Mork appear to exist simultaneously as distinct entities and as manifestations of collective orcish consciousness. This paradox has led some scholars to suggest they represent a unique form of deity that transcends traditional definitions of godhood. Recent studies of Waaagh energy have revealed patterns suggesting an organized underlying structure to what was previously thought to be chaotic psychic emission. These findings hint at the possibility that orcish religious practice might be unconsciously tapping into fundamental forces of the universe in ways that even the orcs themselves don't understand. The enduring impact of Gork and Mork on galactic affairs extends far beyond mere religious significance. Their influence has fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy, creating a unique form of warfare where belief literally shapes reality. This transformation has forced every major faction to reassess their understanding of both metaphysical and physical laws. Inquisitorial forecasts suggest an acceleration in the evolution of orcish religious practice, As orc populations continue to grow and their understanding of their own divine potential deepens, the likelihood of more frequent and powerful manifestations increases. This progression presents an existential challenge to imperial authority in regions with significant orc presence. The phenomenon of reality modification through collective belief has begun affecting non-orc populations exposed to prolonged orcish presence. Reports indicate that humans living near orc-held territories sometimes experience localized physics anomalies similar to those generated by orc technology. This suggests that orcish faith might be capable of permanently altering the fundamental nature of reality in affected regions. Strategic analyses predict the emergence of new forms of Waaagh, energy manipulation as orc society continues to evolve. The increasing sophistication of their religious practices, combined with their innate ability to affect reality through belief, points toward potential developments that could reshape the nature of warfare itself. The role of Gork and Mork in galactic conflicts has evolved from a cultural curiosity to a strategic consideration of the highest order. Military planners must now account for the probability of divine intervention when engaging significant orc forces, adding another layer of complexity to already challenging tactical situations. Research into the nature of orcish faith has yielded unexpected insights into the relationship between consciousness, belief, and reality. These discoveries have prompted some radical imperial scholars to suggest that the orc approach to reality might represent a more fundamental truth about the universe than previously understood. The emergence of stable orc empires, maintained through religious cohesion rather than just military might, represents a significant shift in the species' development. These more organized societies show signs of evolving beyond mere warfare for its own sake, though violence remains central to their expression of faith. Prophecies from various sources, including Eldar farseers and imperial prognosticators, suggest that the influence of Gork and Mork will play a crucial role in future galactic conflicts. Some predictions indicate that orcish faith might prove instrumental in facing threats that conventional military power cannot address. The ongoing study of orc belief systems has led to revolutionary theories about the nature of divinity in the 41st millennium. The unique characteristics of Gork and Mork, simultaneously created by and creating their worshippers, challenge traditional understanding of the relationship between gods and mortals. As the galaxy enters an increasingly turbulent era, the significance of orcish faith grows ever more apparent. Their unique relationship with their deities, combining primitive directness with reality-altering power, may represent not just a curiosity of evolution, but a fundamental force in shaping the future of the universe itself.